What's good, tinfoil gang? Welcome to episode 3 of The Institute. This one is called Graduation. So this episode follows up on the kids at the Institute, and this is right after a very new and powerful recruit has just arrived in the form of Avery. His presence is going to create a good deal of chaos for Sigsby and her cohort, and we're going to learn just how powerful this kid is. Now, when it comes to Officer Tim, his interactions with Annie lead to a major revelation that will no doubt be the catalyst for his story arc to finally cross over into the main story. And this graduation is for Kisha, and we're gonna get some idea as to what to expect from the back half of the house, because that's where she's headed. There's a lot happening in this episode, so what do you say we get this show on the road? But first, as always, a quick shout out to the channel patrons for being incredibly generous supporters of this channel. Thank you so much for what you do. All right, gang, you know what comes next. It's time to dive. All right, so the first scene of episode 3 starts out with Luke and Tony, and they're headed back to the testing room that we saw in episode 2. This time again, he's getting that green shot, but he's also strapped down this time for some reason. And it almost seems as though the effect is stronger than it was the first time he did it. Well, anyway, they end up wheeling out this widescreen monitor, and he's forced to watch for dots. And when I say forced, I mean forced. I mean, this was damn near Clockwork Orange style forcing. Luke doesn't want to look at the screen, but he does, and he starts to see the dots. But what's interesting is that he doesn't tell them that he saw the dots. And they're not suspicious of this at all because, according to Dr. Hendricks, they were not expecting to see them so soon. Luke is getting more powerful at a rapid pace, and they may not even be aware of it. Anyway, this shot dang near killed him. They wake him up for another test. This time, it's one of those ESP tests where they hold a card up in front of you, and you're supposed to guess what's on the back of the card. This would be a telepathy test, and of course, we remember that Luke doesn't have high telepathy skills. Anyway, Luke doesn't guess it correctly. We don't know if he's faking it or not, but he's too sick to go on, so they finally let him go. So let's head back over to Tim. So he's leaving the Stanton Hotel as per usual, but I haven't mentioned the hotel owner that he runs into on the way downstairs. This guy gives off a weird vibe, and Annie seems to be suspicious of him. So I think that's a good enough reason to keep an eye on this guy. So he's back at the cop shop. So Wendy brings up the incident report at that bodega shooting, the Mr. Dobira case, and Tim doesn't seem to want to fill out any of the paperwork. He doesn't want to be involved, and she's kind of wondering why that is. She's becoming suspicious of him. It appears that Tim is hiding something. It's something about his past, and we don't know who he's hiding from. So Wendy is still digging, and she starts asking him why wouldn't he want to take credit for saving Mr. DeBeater's life. It looks like Officer Gullickson is more than just a little suspicious, so Tim might have to be careful. Now back at the Institute, Avery is beginning to settle in with the others. He can speak to others with his mind, not just read thoughts. Now, he's a very polite kid, but he's also constantly reading other people's thoughts and blowing up their entire situation. He immediately starts exposing everyone. He knows that Luke likes Kisha, but Kisha likes Nicky, but Nicky doesn't care because he's too damaged. Sheesh. Now, Maureen is in this scene the whole time, but she's in the background. And later on, we watch her step into Sigsby's office because she's there to report on the kids. Apparently, she's been spying on them. Shame on you, Maureen. We also learn that the demand for new kids has got Stackhouse pressed, so they've got to send out new snatch teams, their word, not mine, to get more kids. Sigsby warns Maureen about Avery's extensive mind-reading abilities and that she needs to take care, so they're aware of what this kid can do. The next scene takes place between Sigsby and Hendricks. Now, Sigsby is telling Hendricks that she will attend the next test session. This is something that she doesn't seem to do often because he's pleasantly surprised. But we all know why she's doing this. She's trying to probe him to get some information to see what he's really up to. She was keeping an eye on him. But during the conversation, we learn that Avery has a very high BDNF score, over 90, which is apparently extremely high. So it's for this reason that they assume that he will move through the system very quickly because he's more advanced than the average candidate. Sigsby can't help her paranoia and curiosity about Stackhouse and what he's really up to, and she's basically digging around to see if she can confirm. Now she heads back to her desk to watch some video footage from the night before, and she sees the conversation from the last episode. This is the one where Stackhouse and Hendricks are talking about how they're considering taking on Luke as their next candidate for their little side mission. Now we understand why Stackhouse looked at the camera like that before they left. He knew she would be watching this video. In the next scene, we're back at the cafeteria. We're dealing with Avery, Kisha, and Luke. Now, Kisha saw the dots, according to her, so she's graduating soon. But she has to take that dream box test, the one where she has to live a nightmare, customized from her own personal experiences. Now, Avery starts to pick up on some ethereal humming sound that seems to be permeating the entire area. The sound goes on for a minute, and it seems to disturb all of the recruits. This must be the hum that they've been talking about. I think it's also important to note that Annie hears the hum also. So she's attuned to it like the kids. Maybe she's got some powers of her own. So Avery says the sound is coming from the back of the house. Yeah, you know what? Something tells me that that side of the house isn't going to be anything like this one. Sigsby is definitely worried about what Hendricks and Stackhouse are up to. So she calls the mysterious boss man in the middle of the night because she's worried. What's interesting to note is that during the conversation is that Stackhouse has been calling to complain about her too, which I thought was really funny. Either way, the mysterious boss man doesn't take any of their claims seriously. He's basically leaving it up to them to figure it out. Also, note that she intentionally cuts herself during the conversation. She has a very interesting relationship with pain. The next scene is Tim, and he's out doing the night knocking thing. He runs into Annie as per usual, but she's playing hopscotch tonight. Hey, at least she keeps herself entertained. She says something about the Dalai Lama showing her how to prevent them from reading her mind. So I don't think Annie is crazy, but her stories do sound ridiculous or outrageous sometimes, so there's something going on there. Anyway, she asks Tim if he's heard the hum, and he says no. But she does also mention that the hum is getting worse. She drops a lot of little hints in her own scatterbrain sort of style, so it's hard to tell what she really means or what's truth and what's not. But she does say something very interesting. She starts talking about a pilot who crashes a plane because he read the wrong numbers. And he read these wrong numbers because he was influenced by telepathy. So somehow this led to the plane crashing. That sounds like a very important clue that we need to keep track of. So on to the next scene. So now we're back with Luke and Avery at the Institute. Avery demonstrates once again how he can read minds, and Luke is still trying to figure out who they should use as their first target for this ability. This is all part of their plan to escape. This is where Avery reveals that not only can he read others' minds, but he can implant thoughts into their head. We see him do this to Luke, making him think he wanted licorice and even buying it from a vending machine without realizing it. Turns out Luke hates licorice, so there's no way he would have bought that on his own. So Avery starts reading Maureen's thoughts as they start to leave the cafeteria, and he reveals that she's got a lot going on. Apparently, she hates working for the Institute just as much as they hate being there, and she doesn't enjoy spying on them either, which probably means that she's being forced to do this. But she also has another secret, and apparently it's a big one, but we don't find out what that is just yet. So in our next scene, Tim rolls into a bar. And this is where he runs into Kate. This is the girl that's on Jerry Stackhouse's payroll. She's the one that offed Michelle. So she's alone in this bar when Tim comes in, and she's looking for a conversation. From the start of this conversation, I was pretty nervous for Tim because we have no idea what she's up to, but it's probably not good. In the middle of this conversation, Tim sees the TV, and he's glued to the screen because he's watching something about a senator who died in a plane crash. Oh boy, this must be what Annie was talking about. So, did the Institute engineer this crash using a recruit's TP powers? Tim decides to ask Kate what she knows about the Institute since she's a local, but she decides to play defense for them by misinforming him. So she's definitely still working on their behalf. And then Tim makes a fatal mistake in bringing up his conversations with Annie and her musings about what she thinks is going on at the Institute. That was not good. In the next scene, we have Nicky, Luke, and Avery, and they're in the institution recreation area. It's plotting time again, outside of the reach of cameras and microphones. As they're talking, a security guard passes the gates and Avery gets his hooks into the dog. He's even able to see things through the dog's perspective while freely reading its thoughts. Through the dog, he's able to see another fenced-off area that looks rusted out, but there is space under the fence, enough for someone to escape through. But you'd have to get through the back half of the house to get there. But it sounds like this is another yard that has been abandoned. Pretty soon, Kisha enters the scene, and this is right after she's done the dream box. And it must have been bad because this old girl's got a real cigarette in her hand this time. Kisha claims that she was connected to the hum, and I'm already starting to wonder if she was the one that they used to crash that plane, and her connection to this hum might have something to do with that. Anyway, all of this means that she graduates, which is exactly what the next scene is about. It's graduation day for Kisha, and of course, she's not happy about it. Nobody is, except of course for the staff, who pretend to care. Sigsby has the nerve to roll into this party playing a kazoo, which only seems to add salt to the wound. There's a certain flavor of cruelty in this whole experience that you just can't shake. Fun fact, when Avery tries to read Sigsby's mind, he gets nothing. What in the world is going on there? Part of me is wondering if Sigsby is a telepath herself, and is that why she's trying to have a kid? So Luke tries to schmooze with Maureen a bit, trying to tap into her deep-seated resentment for this place, and he wants to use that as an opening to get her on their side. And it seems to be working. Maureen might be just as trapped here as these kids are. So an alliance could be a good and easy thing to form as long as the bosses don't catch wind of this. Kisha gets everyone to hold hands before they take her away, and this makes Sigsby and company very nervous. I'm not sure exactly what she was trying to do there, but I guess we'll find out later. Tony ends up breaking things up because Nicky tries to resist. Things take a very dark turn when Kisha is being escorted to the back half, and we're starting to get a peek at what goes on back there. Now, mind you, while this is happening, Tim comes across Annie's usual spot. He's calling for her, but he's not getting any answer, and we find out why. Yeah, they made it look like a self-delete, and you can bet your bottom dollar that Kate had something to do with this. This has to be how Tim gets involved into the main storyline. So Avery is watching things through Kisha's eyes as she's led down the dark hallways to the other side, while Sigsby is watching everything from a CCTV. Now, once they reach their apparent destination, your favorite person, Tony, suddenly dons the most diabolical smile as he welcomes her to the new home. It confirms that this place cannot be good. This side of the house isn't going to be as pleasant as the front half, and that's not really saying much. At this point, Avery loses control, or his connection to Kisha, so he can no longer see what's happening, which means you and I, the audience, we don't get to see what she sees. We'll probably get more on that next week. I think the thing that we need to be worried about right now is Sigsby and that anxious look she's got on her face as she's watching Avery poke holes in their defenses. This is the best episode yet. Anyway, that's it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, you already know what to do. Thank you so much for watching. Episode 4 is on the way. As always, tinfoilers, take care of yourselves out there. And until next time, off you go.